So you can access Google Classroom by either going to your Google Apps menu or going to classroom.google.com. And if this is the first time that you've gone to Google Classroom, or if you've used it in the past, setting up a classroom is still fairly simple. You can begin by clicking on the plus sign in the top right corner, and then go to Create Class. Now, depending on where you teach, what subject you teach, what grade student you teach, you can do this a few different ways. So if you're a secondary teacher, you can create a class for each separate class that you have. If you're an elementary teacher, you can either create one class for your whole day, where you can put math, social studies, science, and all the assignments and stuff in that, or you can create separate classes for each different subject area to try to keep things organized. It's a personal preference, but just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this tutorial and what you think would be easier for you and your students, whether it's just to put everything in one classroom or to create different classrooms for your students. And their view will be very similar to this view here, or your view, where if you had one for science, social studies, math, they can just go to their Google Classroom and then just click on the individual classes. So let's set up our first class here. We're just going to call this tutorial. And then you can put in any additional information that might be useful to your class, section, subject, room, and we'll go to create. Now let's quickly go through all of the different things that you're seeing on your screen, because this is your class homepage. And so you'll see on the menu on the left, you can quickly toggle between your classes, your calendar, and then any classes that you have or belong to on the side. Up top here, you have your stream. So think of your stream like, for those of you who are on Facebook, it's kind of like your main page. So when the students come in, this is what they'll see first. So any announcements or anything that you post in your stream will be like the first things that they see when they come into class. So to create an announcement, you just simply click where it says announce something to your class. And so here you can type in either a good morning message to the students. You can, summarize their day, what it's going to look like. You can link any assignments. You can put everything kind of in one spot. And again, especially depending on what age you have for your students, this could be used in several different ways. But a couple important things about the announcement is down here, you can change between bold, italic, underline. You can bullet so that it is visually really easy for the kids to see things, and you can remove the formatting if you're copying and pasting or anything like that. You can link things directly from your Google Drive. You can upload files from your computer. You can add in links to different sites, and you can add YouTube videos. So let's just click on add YouTube videos. You can actually search in YouTube. So let's look up the best YouTube channel out there. Let's type in the Ed Tech Show. And here are a bunch of different videos. So let's say we want to tell them how to see their students while they're presenting in Google Meet. Simply click add video. And now that will be linked in my announcements. If I wanted to send them to a website, so we'll click here and then we'll say National Geographic Kids. We can put the link into there, add link, and that will also be in there. I can upload any files. So if I had a picture that I wanted to put in there, we can upload a picture. So this was from another video that I made. And again, if you want to link something from your Google Drive, you can just click on that. And we can put our back to school slides on there. And you can write, like I said, any message up here. Now, something to keep in mind is up top here, you can actually decide what classes you want to post this announcement in. So you might have 7 different classes, and you want to do the same announcement for those other classes. Instead of having to go to each class to do it, you can just click up here and select all of the classes that you want to publish that in. And you can decide what students you want to see this message. So you can either click all students. Now, this is just a test classroom that I'm using for this. But if you had all of your students listed, You can click on the individual students. So you could customize this, which is a really nice way to differentiate without the students even knowing that that's what you're doing, because they'll only see what you allow them to see and the things that you post for them. So let's just post this so you get an idea of what that looks like. And so you see that now it's a nice condensed announcement that has everything that I need the students to see here, and you can have instructions for what you want them to do with everything that you've linked. Now we mentioned the students, so let's click on people. We'll come back to classwork in a second. So here is where you can add the different co-teachers that you might have in your class, or any administrators that want access to your class, and your students. So there's 3 different ways to populate your class. When you click on the person with the plus sign, you have an invite link that you can share with your students. So if you wanted to email this, you can email that to your students by just clicking copy invite link, and you can send it out by email. You can type their name or email address. I'm just going to put, I can type in, if I wanted to invite the Ed Tech Show, I can invite that. And when I click invite, they'll receive an email that will have a link in it. All they have to do is click on the link, and then it will put them in the class. Now, if you are in a student directory or a school directory, you can start to begin to type their names, and you'll see their email addresses, and then you can just click on it. And again, you can do this for your entire class. You can just kind of type their names and then just do it all at once. You can give them the class code, which is available in the banner on your stream on the main page there. So if you're in class, you can just write that on the board, and when they go into classroom.google.com and click that plus button, they can join using a code, and they would just type that code in. Or one of the new updates allows your IT department to populate your classes from your student information system. That is a little bit more complicated, and that needs to work through your tech department, but just know that that is an option that has just become made available this summer. So if your school or district is set up to do that, they can actually just populate it, all the classes at one time. Now, once you've added other teachers, they will be able to assign different classwork, make announcements, and do all that stuff as well. So this works well if you have any paraprofessionals, if you have any special services like ELL, or special education people that are working with students in your class. They can hop in and see all the work. They can go and they can add extra assignments for the kids or resources for them, which works out really nicely. Under the classwork tab, you have a few different options. So this is where you'll assign your work to the students. And it's important before you get started to start thinking about how you want to set up your classwork, because you can begin to just create assignments. And when you click create, you have some choices here. So you can create an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question. You can post materials, or you can reuse posts. So if you have classes that you've used in the past, you can reuse them. A question would be something that's open-ended. So you can type out something for the students. So you could say, something about your lesson, something about their homework, and you can actually have a nice discussion that evolves underneath. So I could just say, what did you learn from today's class? And under instruction, I can write, what was one thing you learned? And you can decide whether it's a short answer, or you can leave multiple choice. If you wanted to insert any other materials, you can do that as well. And just like before when we were making posts, you can decide what classes this question is going to get asked in, which students will see this. And then down here, you can decide whether or not students can reply to each other. So here you could do a bunch of different things. You could have, you could even say, reply to 2 students. You could say, you could have a debate. You can do lots of different things where the students are responding to each other. And depending on the age of your students, you can kind of get into some of that digital citizenship stuff with, some manners, some what's polite, what's rude, how do you respond in a digital format, all that stuff. And you can also either have the students lock in their answers, or you can allow them to go back and edit. We'll talk about topics in a second. You can assign a due date, and you can assign points. So let's go to Ask, just so you can kind of see what this looks like. And you'll see now under classwork, you have the question icon, and then you have the post that says, what did you learn from today's class? And as the students answer, you'll see the numbers here that show how many it was assigned to, how many have turned it in, and then you'll be able to see all of their answers. And you can see the question as you asked it, and you can even go in and edit. So if you said, oh man, I made a mistake, or I really wished I had done this, you can kind of say, I didn't give enough instructions. Please respond to 2 classmates. And then save, and it will change for the students. So now let's go back to our classwork tab. And let's go and create a new assignment. So this would be in your kind of day-to-day stuff. You've got something you want the students to do. You can just do the same way that you set up that question that I just did. Let's just call it Chapter 1, Where the Red Fern Grows. And so now you can put down the instructions. You could say read pages 1 to 27 and answer the following questions. And you can link in any work that you might have. So if you've got like a worksheet in Google Docs or something in your Google Drive, you can create that and put that in here. So let me just add something in Google Drive here. So I've just added in a Google Doc, and over next to it, you'll see students can view file. You can change this to students can edit the file, which would mean there's one copy for all of your students that everybody's editing, or you can go down to where it says make a copy for each student. And then when each student opens up this assignment, it will create a separate doc for each one. Over here on the right side, same as before, you can decide what classes this is assigned to, which students, how many points, what the due date is. So I can come in and say this is due tomorrow. And again, we haven't talked about topics yet, but we will talk about that in a second. You can also create a rubric. So we won't create a full one right now, but just know that this option exists so that you can have a full rubric that you can grade right in Google Classroom, which allows you to pull up the assignment as the student works on it and then grade it right in using the rubric. And then there's also originality reports that you can check for plagiarism. And so let's just click Assign so you can begin to see what our Google Classroom is going to look like. So you see for the students, when they go into classwork, they're going to see they've got an assignment, which you see the assignment icon here. And then you see the question down here. And these are things that they have to do. Now, I mentioned the topics. Topics is a way to organize this classwork. So let's call this topics. Let's say there's reading. Let's say there's science. And let's say there's math. So this would be, let's say you set up your classroom in a way where you're a primary teacher and you want to have all of your assignments in one place. Here you can start to sort things to have them make sense for the students. And you can actually move your assignments around by just clicking and dragging. So now you've got math. What did you learn from today's class? Oops, this should go under reading. So you put that under reading. And now, you're beginning to get a little bit more organized. You can also delete these. Or you can rename them. So something else to think about if you're teaching virtually or if you're trying to organize your stream here, or your classwork page chronologically, you could say, this is work for week 9-6 to 9-10. And then, you can kind of go back and you can rename all these. If you just create something, and you don't give it a topic. So let's just call this unit quiz. And let's say we created a whole Google form here for our quiz and we assign it. It will just put anything that you don't assign a topic to above where you have the topics. So it's just something to think about. It's easy to, if you begin organizing right from the beginning, it doesn't become overwhelming. Another thing I've seen teachers do, which I think is kind of cool, is when they're creating assignments, they'll rename them, or they'll name them and they'll use emojis in the beginning. So they'll put like, maybe a pencil if it's a writing assignment, or they'll put, like a two-person emoji if it's group work. So it's just a way for students to visually look down and they can kind of identify what the work is. And then from the grades, again, I don't have anything in here because this is just a tutorial that I created, but this will show you the students and their grades and their assignments. So once you start populating those assignments and the students start completing it, this grades page will start to fill out. Now, one of the really nice things that Google added last year was a Google Meet that is generated right in your banner. So to customize your banner, you can do that a couple different ways. Let's first generate a Meet link. So our class will have a unique link. And you can make that visible to students, which means they can see the link at the top. But you can also hide that. So if you go up to the gear up top here, your settings gear, this will let you change any of your class details. You can manage your invite codes. So those are what I showed you in the beginning and how to get your students logged in. You can decide whether or not your students can post and comment on your stream. So I always like letting the students comment. Kind of gets them excited, lets them just be interactive, especially if you're teaching virtually. But if you wanted so they couldn't comment or post, you can make it so only teachers can post or comment. There's different options for the classwork on the stream, showing attachments, or you can show the condensed notifications or hide notifications. You can show deleted items. You can send Guardian summaries. So an example of this is what the parents see. So this, it depends. Parents can't necessarily join your Google Classroom, but parents and guardians can get summaries of the assignments. So I'll show you how to add that in a second. You can also decide whether or not that link, as I mentioned, is visible to students by toggling this. And then you can also change your grading calculations so that it's points, or you can do weighted categories. And then you can add in the categories. So if you wanted weighted categories, you can decide, what percentage or how many points go to each different category. So it's essentially like setting up your grade book that you would do in whatever your student information software is, whether it's PowerSchool or Infinite Campus or something else. It's setting it up just like that. And I mentioned the banner up top. You can change that. You can select themes. There's a bunch that are already in here. You can upload your own pictures and videos. I know a lot of people like to use their Bitmojis. So if you have a Bitmoji banner, you can do that as well by just clicking on Upload Photo and then kind of customizing it to how you want it to look. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a way to invite guardians to get those emails. Now you'll see from this page, which I have blurred out all the personal information, but next to the students, once they've accepted the invite and they're in your class, you can click where it says Invite Guardians, and then you can type in their email address, and it will send them a link that allows them to be able to receive those updated summaries that I showed you before in the options setting of your classroom. One last thing to show you is when you click on Calendar, once you start making assignments, those will show up in your Google Calendar and they'll show up in your students' Google Calendar as well. So it's a really nice way to stay organized with all of your assignments. And as the students go through, depending on how many assignments they have from different teachers and different classes, it's a nice way for them to stay organized and visually see all the work they have to do for each